Welcome back to the Lines College Football Podcast. I'm Brett Gibbons with TheLines.com, and as always, I'm joined by the one and only Kelley Ford. Kelly, the season's waiting long. It's starting to get a little dark. The sun's starting to going down on the football season. I don't want to be pessimistic as a start, but we need to cherish what we have left. How are you feeling about this week? How are you feeling about the season so far?
I'm feeling great about this week, Brett. We've got some really big, high-profile games that we're going to talk about. I'm feeling great about the season so far. The season that has been in 2023 has been refreshing. It's been exciting. We have more teams in this mix at this point of the season with kind of clear paths to the 4-team playoff than I think we've seen in recent years. You got some traditional powers that are playing well, and you haven't seen them play at this level or win at this level in a long time. And you've got some upstart teams who are also pushing the envelope a little bit. So yeah, it's been a great year of college football. It always is. It always goes too fast. And I'm excited to see what November has in store for us because, as I mentioned before, while I love every college football Saturday in the fall, the college football Saturdays in November just have a little something extra to them. And we saw that this past week. I'm sure we're going to see it again this upcoming week, and I'm just very excited.
Yeah, last week, in my opinion, was the perfect college football weekend. Yeah. Like, there wasn't a lot of crazy upsets or anything like that, but, you know, all the games came down in the opening window, all came down to the last play. And then the afternoon window was a ton of ranked matchups and the Bedlam upset and all that stuff. And then the night window was just, here's every point you could ever hope to see scored on a TV scored in front of you in two major games. So, yeah, I'm with you. I feel pretty good about it. Before we get into this week's slate, though, don't forget to follow The Lines on Twitter at TheLinesUS. I'm at Road to CFB, and Kelly's work can be found at K Ford Ratings. We'll be here for the remainder of the college football regular season as well as bowl season. Kelly, that's starting to come up here soon. We're starting to do some logistics behind that, some really good stuff coming up, I think, as well as weeknight games and the Saturday slates, of course, for the remainder of the season. We're back for some Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night action. The 49 straight days of football continues to roll on. I don't know about you. I've watched at least one football game every single day that we've had this 49 days, really soaking in because if you ever need a minute where you're like, I think I need to unplug, I don't need to watch the action tonight, just remember what you felt like on like June 15th. That's what brings me back to like, okay, no, I need to enjoy this now before I can't during the dog days of summer. And speaking of Maction, we have a Maction matchup here on tap. We have Akron on the road at Miami of Ohio. The Redhawks are 18-point home favorites. The game only carries an over-under of 41 points. Large spread, low total. That's interesting. We'll get into a little bit of strategy with that. Don't worry. This game kicks off at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPNU. That is on Wednesday. It's going to be breezy during the game. We're expecting winds between 11 and 15 miles an hour with higher gusts, so that does sometimes impact the total. It's already a low total enough, so we'll see. Also, I'm up in Cleveland. There must be a hard line because we're in the 50s, and it's saying it's going to be almost 80 this day. Not during the game, but like I said, throw out there. Jealous of the people down there in Oxford. The market did take a position on the under already. Maybe that's weather-induced. Maybe that was just market movement, but they dropped it from 43.5 to 41 on Tuesday. Also, the Redhawks took some early money in the week. I don't anticipate seeing any Akron money, to be honest here. The wagon wheel game, the game that Akron is coming off, a huge comeback win, 21-point fourth quarter. Glad I stuck it out. Couldn't feel any of my extremities and caught a pretty nice cold after going to that game, but I'm glad I was there. That was a lot of fun. Great job. That said, this is not the Kent State defense, Kelly. Miami is 43rd in points per quality possession allowed. I do have to give a shout out. Parker Fleming at Stats of War on Twitter shares these amazing stat breakdowns, and I borrow a lot of stuff from there. Credit where credit is due. Miami's also top 20 in third down conversion rate, and they're only allowing 12.2 points per game to MAC opponents so far this season. That's where you get the implied 11.5 team total for Akron. Again, 18-point spread, 18.5 in some spots, 41-point over-under. The quarterback for Akron, Jeff Undercuffler, he played really well when it counted against Kent. He did lead them to that 21-point comeback. Well, 17-point comeback, 21-point fourth quarter. That said, against FBS competition, he's a sub 60% completion guy. 3 touchdowns thrown on the entire season. Not much of a rushing threat. He's not really elusive in the pocket either. And his receivers don't help him out. They're just flat out bad. So there's not a big, exciting passing attack there. They do actually have a former 5-star, Lorenzo Lingard, came up from Florida. Not playing like 5-star, though. There was a big-time worry about Brett Gabbert's injury on the other side for Miami, but I saw it in the bowl game, and so far this year, Avion Smith, the backup, he's perfectly capable. Some people are actually saying he's better than Gabbert. I don't know if I go that far, but he's a dynamic rusher. He's a playmaker. I think Miami's going to be just fine with him back there. Akron's rush defense, not so bad. It's probably the biggest strength on their entire team. But when you look at them against better competition, they gave up 131 yards and 3 touchdowns to Bowling Green's Terrion Stewart, who I haven't gotten a lot of chance to talk about on the podcast. He's all over my Twitter. Fantastic running back. Northern Illinois rushed for 380 yards. So Akron's run defense is a strength against lesser competition. Against better competition, not so much. Last year, Akron became feisty at the end of the year when DJ Irons came in and injected the team with a little bit of life. This year, it's the opposite. He's out. The Zips are kind of helpless.
Yeah, Brett, this game, okay, let me start with, you said, hey, get those nights where like, do I need to watch this action game? Can I pass on it? Just remember how you felt in mid-June. Remember how you felt in mid-June when you're considering turning this game on, because, Brett, this game, it has a watchability score of 2.5. That's out of 10, so you can say, oh, okay, well, that's not the worst it could be. It's the worst we have this week, Brett. It's the number 1 sicko game of the week for me, the lowest watchability score that we have. And people sometimes get confused, I think, with my watchability. And you're saying, oh, you said that wasn't going to be a good game. No, that's not what watchability is. Watchability is it's a combination of projected or average quality of the teams and projected competitiveness. So if you have two teams who, from a power rating standpoint, aren't very good, they're near the bottom of FBS, they're actually going to have a decent competitiveness component because they're both kind of equal there. Where they're going to get dinged is in the average quality. And so that's the larger component. That's what brings it down. But just because a game has a low watchability score doesn't mean it's not going to be a close game. It just means that the teams involved probably aren't the highest quality of team. So that's just important to note, because some people have said, well, you said that wasn't going to be a game and that'd be a good game. That's not what that means. It just means the average quality of these teams probably isn't as high as what we see in other places. I think that's accurate when we're talking about these two teams here. Miami's on a 6-game winning streak in this series. It's their longest ever in the series. I have Miami minus 22 in this game, Brett. It's a 94% win expectancy. Miami has the number 1 offense and the number 1 defense in the division. But it's really the defense that's been the most impressive for me. They're ranking right now as season best, number 36 nationally this week. I mean, that's a really, really good defense, just period. You put the fact that they're playing in the MAC, and we're traditionally, or this year, we haven't seen defense or offenses unit ranks that high. It's really, really impressive what this defense has been able to do this year, and I expect that they're going to be the best unit on the field by a large margin. While Akron's coming off their first win of the FBS season, Brett, as you mentioned, that was against my number 133 power-rated team in Kent State. For those keeping track at home, there are 133 FBS teams, so that is dead last. The Zips are still my second to worst in the power ratings this week, number 132. Miami's at home. They have the rest advantage. I have the Redhawks with a 95% chance to win the East, a 43% chance to win the MAC as things stand. Looking very likely that they're going to play Toledo in that game, almost a certainty at this point. Bottom line, I have Miami minus 22. There's just a 6% chance that Akron beats Miami for the first time since 2016 and the first time in Oxford since 2015, Brett.
I do like that 43% chance to win the MAC, considering I am still holding a 9-1 ticket on the Red Hawks for the MAC. It's my only conference future that's looking halfway decent. So I'm happy with that. To be honest, your number's late 22. I do think there's a real possibility for a beatdown here, but here's where that high point spread and low total comes into account. Look, there is a correlation. If you think Akron can score 2 touchdowns, not asking a lot, but to get to the end zone twice, then I would bet the over in the game rather than over their team total, because there's a bunch of juice on their team total. If you don't think they're going to score 2 touchdowns, probably take the under in the game. Miami of Ohio runs the 5th slowest tempo in the country. They're super conservative on late downs. People seem to forget that. We hit bowl season and everyone loses their collective minds when they don't go for 4th down late in the game. That's just not what they do there. I probably lean the latter of the 2 options. So it's probably a lean to the under, even with the total bet down. 41 points, that's asking Akron to score 14 or more, and I don't know that they do that. So if I'm leaning to a side here, it is going to be under the total of 41 points. Moving from the MAC to the ACC, we have Virginia on the road at number 11 Louisville. Little peek behind the curtain. These are some fresh dropped college football playoff rankings. So the newly minted number 11 Louisville Cardinals, they are 20-point home favorites. Sorry, guys. We're not starting off with a couple of nail-biting close games. This game carries an over-under 50.5 points, though, so maybe a little bit more scoring. Kicks off Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN's main network. Tony Muskett, the quarterback for Virginia, if you are unaware, left last week's loss to Georgia Tech. He's day-to-day. I can't find one way or another this early in the week, even though they only play in a couple of days, whether or not he's going to play. But the team, this is key, the team had to burn Anthony Calandra's red shirt last week. That means, I don't know, man. I'd probably put him back in. He at least gives you the higher ceiling. You're bowl ineligible. You're not going to do anything in the ACC. The best you can do is get experience for your guys upcoming, knock off a couple of teams, and just end the year on a high note. I think Anthony Calandra gives you the best opportunity at that. When he plays well, he's the better option by far. But he's extremely erratic. That's what makes him so fun to watch. And he'll turn the ball over at the least opportune times. That's just the Calandria experience. But as a fan of fun football, I do hope I see Calandria back out there. Louisville's defense, really dang good this year, especially in the red zone, and they're really good at forcing turnovers. They're third in quality possessions allowed per game, fourth in red zone defense. So it could get really ugly for Virginia, honestly, no matter who starts back there. For the Who's running back Mike Hollins, he has 7 touchdowns and just 68 rush attempts this year. Really efficient, really good. He is on track to play after suffering a neck injury. This is the last man in college football that needs an injury, considering he was the survivor of that horrific shooting that happened at Virginia last year. Doesn't need any injuries, but he is on track to play, so that's good news. On the other side, Louisville, they're dealing with their own injuries. Jamari Thrash, top corner Jarvis Brownlee, they sat out last week. Jawar Jordan was a bit limited. He was a game-time decision last week. Jordan is trending toward playing. I could not find an update on Thrash or Brownlee yet. That is definitely worth monitoring. It didn't matter that they didn't have either of these guys last week. Louisville came out and just took it to Virginia Tech 34-3. Louisville has a travel advantage. Maybe not necessarily a rest advantage in the traditional sense, but I do view this as a bit of a rest advantage. They played their last 3 games at home, including this one, and Virginia's played on the road in 2 of their last 3, and now this one again. So 3 of their last 4 it'll be. That is something worth noting, I think.
Yeah, Louisville's a team we've talked about all year, Brett. They only played
Yes.
three true road games the entire regular season. That's the fewest in all of FBS. They had 2 neutral site games to go with that. They only play 1 road game in a college football stadium this year because 2 of their games at Pitt and at Miami, Florida, this NFL stadiums, the only true road game they played at a college football stadium was at NC State back in week 5. So you touched on a few things there, Brett, and the thing that sticks out to me is when you're talking about Virginia and really any team who you said, they're bowl ineligible at this point. They've already lost more games than they're going to be able to get to bowl eligibility with 6 wins. What are they going to do? And what is there to play for? And you said, well, getting the experience and trying to knock off some teams. Like, I couldn't agree more. Getting the experience, absolutely. But when you're in this position, your Super Bowl is anytime you're playing a team that's, ranked. And this week they've got a team in Louisville who's ranked, and you have an opportunity to ruin their season. And I understand this isn't like the biggest rival that Virginia has. It always feels better when you do it to your rival. Like, always think back to the 2007 backyard brawl between Pitt and West Virginia, where Pitt ruins West Virginia's BCS national championship game hopes and on the last game of the regular season when they really had nothing to play for other than that. But for Virginia, they've done this already once this year at North Carolina in a game that no one gave them a chance, including my numbers in Vegas and everything else. So we've seen this before. Virginia can do it. My numbers don't suggest they will, but that's what they have to play for. And teams like that can be dangerous, especially when you're introducing new players into the mix who have a lot to prove. This game has a watchability score of 5.3, Brett. I have Louisville minus 21. It's a 93% win expectancy. But again, the Virginia-UNC game, I had a 96% win expectancy for North Carolina, and Virginia showed me what they think of that. So Florida State has secured its spot in the ACC championship game. Louisville is looking every bit like the team that will face the Seminoles. They have an 82% chance to make it to Charlotte currently. The Cardinals have a top 25 offense. Their defense right now is a season best number 14. That's the best opposing defense Virginia will face all year by my current numbers. Virginia's had such an interesting season, and I touched on it a little bit. They start 0-5, but 4 of those 5 games were decided by a field goal. Then the Who's beat FCS William & Mary. They pull off one of the upsets of the season at North Carolina, as I talked about. An overtime loss at Miami the next week still showed encouraging signs there. But then the wheels fell off a little bit last week against Georgia Tech. So that momentum that they built, being close against NC State, against Boston College, winning against FCS, winning at North Carolina, have they lost that? I don't know. Can they get it back? possibly. But there's so much on the line for Louisville in this game. I just don't see how Louisville can pull off a letdown. Like, I don't see them having a letdown game here, even if Virginia does play up to the level they played against North Carolina. Louisville, with everything in front of them, it's right there. I just don't think they're going to have a letdown in this spot. I just don't see it. Bottom line, Louisville minus 21, 7% chance that Virginia knots up the all-time series, at 6 apiece in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. A team with nothing to play for that has some high-end players that are just looking to headhunt. I mean, Louisville's probably the last ranked opponent they'll play. They have Duke and Virginia Tech left on the slate. But, that makes them dangerous. But also, when you have a good football team that already had their letdown, that's in a spot to just win out and make the ACC championship, your CFP hopes are probably still a little bit alive. Yeah, I can't imagine that they're going to fall asleep at the wheel. If you're looking at the total, in my opinion, no matter what position you take on, it's going to be frustrating as hell. You take the over, and then you watch Anthony Calandria turn the ball over like 6 times, and Virginia comes away with nothing and doesn't pull their weight, and Louisville's defense does what it's been doing all year. Then you take the under, and then Calandria just guns it downfield, and like at halftime, we're already staring down 35 points. You're like, geez, come on. So give me a first half over if Calandria is the guy. That does sit at 26.5. I think he comes in, ignites a little bit of a spark in this team before, Louisville has time to make adjustments. I don't trust them game long, but in the first half to come out of the gate and play with a little bit of fire, sure. If Musket goes, I don't like laying numbers this big. I don't usually take minus 18, minus 20, whatever we're talking about, but it's Louisville or nothing for me. Virginia, I think, is getting a bit of a boost from upsetting North Carolina still off their bye. And they were coming off a bye, had the rest advantage. And then, look, on paper, they took Miami to overtime. That's great, but Miami is atrocious right now. Like, you have to treat them as one of the worst teams in the ACC, the way that they're playing on offense at this moment. So I'm not really that surprised by that result. Not as much as the North Carolina one. So just to summarize, if Calandria plays, first half over. If Musket goes, Louisville the points, I suppose, under 21.
If Duke beats North Carolina this week on the road, Duke would be, right now they're number 26, my most deserving. They'd be 7-3. They're going to be in my top 25. I think the committee will rank Duke next week if they win at North Carolina this week. I say that because Duke plays at Virginia in the next week. So Virginia could get back-to-back chances here at a ranked team. Not that that necessarily matters, but if you're looking for something to play for, that could be something.
Good note. All right, we've got the Sun Belt on tap. We have Southern Miss on the road at Louisiana. I don't think that we talked about Louisiana this year. It's always exciting to bring new teams into the fold. The Ragin' Cajuns are 10-point home favorites as it lies right now. Today, it has an over-under of 52.5 points. This game kicks off Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPNU. These two teams haven't met very much. Southern Miss is new to the Sun Belt. They actually won last year and actually have won the last 10 straight meetings. But that goes, that goes back to 1994. So it's not actionable, but it's just fun. Louisiana quarterback Zion Chris, not going to play this week after being carted off the field on Saturday. Chandler Fields is the one that's going to step in and start. Now, it probably was in reaction to the quarterback news, maybe a little bit of market-driven movement as well. I think Southern Miss has kind of been a betting darling as of late, but Chris was expected to be out. Southern Miss still took a lot of movement, down from plus 14.5 to plus 10 at FanDuel. So quite a jump there. Chris was playing pretty well this year. And to be honest, I'm not really a buyer in Chandler Fields. He's a fifth-year guy, never really been able to secure the full-time starting job. He did get that opportunity last year, but then he got hurt, and when he did play, it wasn't super impressive. He was sacked 3 times and threw a pick at Arkansas State when he came in last week. Again, not a lot of confidence in this guy. I don't know how... It is some movement to the points, but I don't know how big it is, though. I don't know that Zion Chris is worth 4.5 points. If that was purely quarterback driven, I don't know that necessarily is true. Anyway, Billy Napier, moving on, really, really hurt this program, man. They were top of the league just year after year after year, 12, 13, and 1. And now they're not doing so well, and it's been kind of rocky for him over in Gainesville. Get him back to Lafayette, man. That's where he belongs. He's at his best from what I've seen, in charge of a smaller program that can recruit really well, especially regionally, instead of at a premier SEC program like Florida. Anyway, the defense has been the problem for Louisiana, and it was not a problem under Napier, but it is a big problem now. They're 95th in points per quality possession allowed, 125th in rushing success rate, 113th in third down conversion rate. All of the things you don't want to see a defense doing, they are doing and doing poorly. On the flip side, Southern Miss, I don't know what they're doing, man. They continue to force this run-pass balance, and maybe it's because they're really inefficient on the ground game, but dude, they're 126 in passing success rate. Billy Wiles is completing less than 53% of his passes, 13 turnover-worthy throws. I don't know why you just continue to put the ball in his hands like they have. And as a result, Southern Miss 125th in points per quality possession.
Yeah, Brett, you talked about, is Chris worth 4.5 points to the spread? I think I've talked about before. I'm not sure at the college level. It's different in the NFL. At the college level, there's not too many quarterbacks that are worth that many points or really even a field goal. I mean, a field goal, okay, even more than a field goal. Like, to me, I think personally, and I need to do more research and digging into this maybe in the summer, I think the college football betting public overreacts to quarterback injuries. And yes, quarterback's the most important position in all of team sports. That's NFL, college, high school, peewee. I mean, it doesn't matter. It goes all the way down. But I sometimes think that the betting public overreacts and overweights what a quarterback means to a team because, quite frankly, oftentimes, especially with time to prepare, the drop-off just isn't that great. Whereas in the NFL, especially with the elite quarterbacks, there's a huge drop-off between like replacement level and Pro Bowl level and All-Pro and MVP type. So that's just something to keep an eye on, something maybe I need to dig into this summer. But I agree with what you're saying there, and I typically do when we're talking about that kind of conversation. This game, watchability.
Well, just jump here real quick. No, I want to echo that. I'm with you. NFL is player-driven. College is system-driven.
Totally.
We will talk about when we get to the Saturday slate, just a quick sneak peek for that. There will be a game that I talk about in which a couple of games in which the quarterbacks are really weighted to the point spread, in my opinion. Zion Chris is not one of them.
I'm looking forward to the Saturday episode now. See exactly which games you're talking about. I can't wait to dive in. For this game, Brett, watchability scores 3.2. I have Louisiana minus 13. It's an 82% win expectancy. Louisiana was a season high, number 77 in my power ratings last week. Unexpected loss, though, at Arkansas State. Did not look good in that one. The Raging Cajuns are now number 88 in my power ratings. They still have the advantage on both sides of the ball, though, and this game is at home. At 2-7, Southern Miss has 2.7 fewer wins than my preseason realistic expectations projected through Week 10. That's fourth worst in the entire country, Brett. Southern Miss is showing up at the bottom of a lot of different lists that I'm putting out every single week, and it's not been good for the Golden Eagles. However, they are coming off their first FBS win of the season against ULM last week. Perhaps they found something. Can they catch Louisiana looking ahead to a road trip to Troy next week? Maybe. I don't know. I don't have a ton about this. Southern Miss has been really disappointing. Louisiana, a team that's had great success in recent years in the Sun Belt, kind of looking to regain their footing, though, under the new regime and in the new world here. So bottom line, Louisiana minus 13. It's an 82% chance that the Raging Cajuns snap their 10-game losing streak, as you said, in this series. First win against Southern Miss since, as you said, Brett, 1993. They don't play every year, but that's a long time, Brett. I think you're probably born around then. I was 92. I think you might be 92, 93, if I'm not mistaken. So literally our whole lives, they have not won in this series.
I will not disclose my birth year. It's not 93.
Okay.
Maybe past that. But anyway, Southern Miss, guys are bad. They're just not good. The defense is even worse than the offense, and I already disclosed their offense. Defensively, they're 99th in red zone scoring allowed, 117th in points per quality possession allowed. I don't think that a 24-7 win over Louisiana Monroe, who's just awful. And then on the other side, Louisiana's inexcusable. It lost to Arkansas State. I cannot figure out Arkansas State. I took a position on them early in the year. We talked about on the podcast that they're turning a corner and their quarterback makes them a lot better. And then they go and get boat raced like 3 games in a row. And I'm like, okay, fine, they're not that good. And then they come out and beat Louisiana, whatever. They're on my do not bet list. Anyway, I think that the number is skewed a little bit because of those two outcomes. There's a lot of recency bias in the market that we can see, especially when the public starts getting involved. I think this number is just possibly a little bit skewed. Like I said, I don't know that the movement from Chris to Fields is worth almost a touchdown, and that's where we're kind of getting at now. If we hit that 6-point move, if we get Louisiana minus 9.5 or better, I'm going the other way and laying the point to the home team. I don't love fading the market all the time. You've done okay if you've done that this year, but 6 points is just entirely too much to go from these two quarterbacks, especially again, I know he said he wasn't very good, and I don't think that he is, but he's still a 5-year experienced quarterback with plenty of starts under his belt. He can operate a system, right? Southern Miss, 3-6 against the spread this year. I don't love bringing these up all the time. I'm not a big trends guy, but they're failing to cover their margin by 8 points per line. That's the 6th worst in the country. So I want to see the minus 9.5. If I don't get it by kickoff, I'd probably lay the 10 with Louisiana at home. All right, we have our last game on our weeknight slate here. We have Wyoming at UNLV. This game is fascinating to me. There's a lot of implications in this game that I did not see coming preseason whatsoever. UNLV is a 5.5-point home favorite. This game carries an over-under 50.5 points, and it kicks off Friday night at 10:45 p.m. Eastern on FS1. Maybe the bar that you're at, if you're out that late, we'll have it on one of the TVs you can watch. This is a huge Mountain West Conference game. Big-time championship implications. UNLV, 4-1 in Mountain West Conference play. Maybe the quietest 7-2 team in the nation. Like, eyebrow-raising. This is another team we have not talked about this year that I'm happy to bring into the fold and talk about. Their strength of record, too, for UNLV, terrific. 48th, according to the FPI. They did take some money on Tuesday, pushed a line from -4 to -5.5. Not through any key figures. It's a little bit easier to move the line through those, but still, 1.5, not insignificant. Their starting quarterback, Doug Brumfield, has not played since he got hurt back in week 3. Redshirt freshman Jane Mavia has been really solid, I think, in his replacement. He's a 3-star kid locally from Henderson, Nevada. That's kind of nearby Vegas. I'm pretty sure. I don't know my geography. I'm very sorry. He did have an offer to Louisville as well. So this is like a talented kid coming in that did land in the hands of UNLV. He played his best game of the year as well last week. 3 touchdowns, no picks, routed New Mexico, 56-14. That was no contest whatsoever. The Rebels also have a really interesting offensive system. They have a very multiple rushing attack, 4-headed backfield. Like, they utilize all 4 of these guys pretty evenly. Vincent Davis, Donovan Lester, Jaden Thomas, and Courtney Reese. 24 combined rushing touchdowns between them. Lester's kind of their hammer. He's 6'2", 215. The other guys are all 5'9", 200, 5'8", 180, something like that. Quicker, very fast, small backs, really efficient. The offensive line blocks really well. They're garnering about 2.4 yards per carry before contact. If my offensive lines give me almost 2.5 yards of carry before they even see a defender, love that. They're doing really well. Wyoming on the other side, generally pretty solid against the run. Not terrific, but they're not terrible. Boise State, Air Force, they ran all over them. So when they face these stout, better running attacks, which I don't know if I'd put UNLV in the same category as Air Force, but they're certainly above average. Then you start talking about the Pokes do struggle with those rushing attacks. They allow chunk plays. They're 96 in rushing success rate, 4.9 yards a carry. You can get a little bit of a push on them. Now, it's been a difficult slate, but Wyoming is 0-3 on the road, 6-0 at home. Do have to point out, though, the road splits Texas, Air Force, Boise. It's a tough slate, but what do your numbers say about this? I think super under the radar, great game on tap.
I agree with you on that, Brett. First, fun fact, 2 favorite subjects in school growing up. Number 2 was math, probably not surprising for those that still know me today and what I'm doing with the ratings and all that stuff. But number 1, people probably wouldn't guess, or I don't know, maybe they would, geography. And that was only a subject in like elementary school. By the time you get to middle school and beyond, you're done with that. But you talked about Henderson. Yes, that is a suburb of Las Vegas. I had to look that one up. But geography, man, I used to love drawing maps, doing maps. It's why I like recruiting so much, why I liked recruiting so much, right? Where's this kid coming from? What school is he going to? Where's that located? All that stuff. But I'm with you, Brett. This game is under the radar and should be pretty good. You said the spread is UNLV minus 5.5. That's exactly what my numbers make it. And Brett, how about this? This game has a watchability score of 5.5. So there's a lot of 5.5s going on in this game. I don't know. There could be something weird happening here on a Friday night. Given the Mountain West Conference Championship game leverage, though, that you talked about, I mean, I'd manually adjust this score upwards a little bit. Like, I will figure out a way to put in conference championship race implications, bowl implications, national championship implications, or CFP implications into the watchability in future years, because I do think that matters, and I do think that does change the watchability, quote unquote, of a game. So anyway, that's what I would do if I could manually adjust it. The winner of this game will have the third best odds to make the conference championship game in the Mountain West. So it is a big one. I mentioned I have UNLV minus 5.5, or the model does. It's a 65% win expectancy for the Rebels. UNLV only lost 2 games all year, as you mentioned. Here they are at number 1 power rated Michigan, and at Fresno State, the second best power rated team in the conference. At 7-2, UNLV has 2.5 more wins than my preseason realistic expectations projected through week 10. That's good enough for number 6 nationally on my overachievers list. So while Southern Miss is hanging out in the bottom 4 of this list, UNLV is up at number 6. Just a great year for UNLV, at least from a win-loss record perspective. The Rebels are power rated a season best number 73 this week. They have a season best number 56 offense, and that offense is the best unit in this game by my numbers. This game is in Las Vegas. Those, to me, are the differences in this game. Wyoming, they're really having a really good season in their own right. They're currently number 20 on my overachievers list. Wyoming's losses, Brett, as you mentioned, to Air Force, to Boise State, that makes some of the tiebreakers tough for them in the conference championship game race. But with a win in this game, my numbers would give Wyoming a 38% chance to make it to that conference championship game. So there is a lot on the line here. I'm very excited about this one, as excited as you can be about a Mountain West game in mid-November that's not involving a Boise State, a team that, of course, has been up near the top of rankings in the last decade or 15 years. So bottom line, I have UNLV minus 5.5. It's a 35% chance that Wyoming makes it 3 in a row in this series.
The market, I see it keeps betting the total up through 52 and then betting it back down. So it seems like 52 is kind of the fulcrum point, the key number, and it is a key figure when you're talking about betting college football totals. This game's played indoors, so you don't have to worry about any sort of weather, like if they're playing in Laramie, total crapshoot when it comes to the weather. This one's climate controlled indoors. UNLV super efficient, has shown the ability to be able to score on better defenses. This is probably a play to the over for me as long as it's under that 52 points. Or if you just rather target the UNLV offense, I think over 27.5 team total. Don't hear a lot about them. They don't get a ton of play in the market. May be able to take an opportunity for a blind spot here. But hop on over to our Discord server where you can connect with over 4,000 sports betting fans and get live updates on our college football channel. Join a very sharp and very active community over there. And don't forget to subscribe to Align's YouTube for weekly college football odds and betting videos for the rest of the season. Guys, eyes peeled, bowl content is around the corner. We'll be talking bowl games before you know it. If you like the show, please subscribe to us on your podcasting app of choice and drop a good review over there if you liked what you heard here. If you agree, disagree, also let us know down in the YouTube comments. Kelly, before we close up shop, please let everybody know where they can find your work.
Absolutely. You can find me on X at KFord Ratings, the website, kfordratings.com, now with merchandise on the front page, actually. And then, of course, over at thelines.com, writing 2 different articles a week. And it's fun every single week, writing about the 2 games that have the highest watchability score and why we should be interested in those, what those teams are all about. And then also something that people care greatly about this time of year. How do my most deserving rankings compare to the College Football Playoff Selection Committee Top 25? Of course, the committee updates those every Tuesday. Mine come out every Monday, so I take a look later in the week. Where are the biggest differences? Who has the biggest gripes in the top 4 and in the top 25 as a whole? All of that over at thelines.com, Brett.
Well, thank you so much as always for watching. I'm Brett Gibbons. That's Kelley Ford. We'll see you all next time.